Pokemon fans, Tamashii here. Thanks to your loyal subscriptions and viewership, I finally hit 100,000 subscribers. When I joined 6 years ago, I never thought I'd even get 10,000 subscribers, let alone 10 times that many. So you have my sincere gratitude. I wouldn't be anywhere without you guys. So I figured the only fitting way to celebrate reaching this landmark is by having you guys pick what you wanted to see from me today. On Facebook, I created a poll with several options for what kind of video I could make, and at the time I began working on this video, the top voted result was an EV training tutorial. You guys have spoken, so today I'll teach you all how to EV train your Pokemon. Don't worry if you voted for something else though, because I still plan on making the other videos too. To be honest, EV training itself isn't really hard once you know what you're doing. It's understanding why it matters that's the hard part. I had trouble grasping it myself, so I feel your pain. I think a lot of people, when they find out about EV training and look it up, just get really overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information and math involved in understanding the effort value mechanic. For the uninitiated, effort values are invisible points that add up to boost certain stats that every Pokemon earns just by defeating other Pokemon. They are intended to ensure that Pokemon trained by trainers will always be stronger than wild Pokemon. However, since there is a cap on how many EVs you can earn per Pokemon, people train their Pokemon specifically so that all the EVs they can earn go towards the most useful stats, and not end up wasted in stats that particular Pokemon won't utilize. Since there's already a lot of useful information out there about effort values, what they are and how they work, I won't be explaining that today though. Instead, I think the best way to learn in this case isn't by reading, but by actually doing. And once you've successfully EV trained a Pokemon, you'll have an easier time understanding how it'll affect how that Pokemon performs in battles. So this video is going to be a step-by-step, here's how to EV train, without explanations of why you do each step, in order to avoid overwhelming people with the why instead of focusing on the how. In the video description, I'll link to some useful guides and videos that'll help you grasp that part later. But for now, let's focus on the actual act of EV training instead of what EVs are and why they matter. This tutorial is going to assume you already know a decent amount about Pokemon, since I'm trying to avoid overwhelming you with information. If you don't know what Pokerus is or how it works, for example, I suggest looking that up first before watching the rest of this video. It also assumes that you're going to be EV training a Pokemon in one of the Generation 5 games, Pokémon Black and White, or Pokémon Black and White 2, as the game I'll be using to explain it is White 2. And of course, save often when trying this for the first time, and don't be afraid of messing up. If you save before moving on to another step, if you're worried you messed something up, you can always reset and try again. And if you did save after you messed something up, don't let that discourage you from trying again with another Pokemon. Step 1. Gather materials. To begin, we'll need some materials. First, you'll want Pokerus. The best way to get this is by trading someone over Wi-Fi for a Pokemon that carries the disease in a spreadable form. If you don't have Wi-Fi, you can get the disease in the wild just by battling a wild Pokemon that has it, but it's extremely rare to do so. Since Pokerus is so rare, if you don't have Wi-Fi, it's not absolutely necessary to have Pokerus to EV train your Pokemon. It just doubles all the EVs earned per Pokemon knocked out, which makes the whole process go a lot faster. Second, you'll need some power items. The power band, belt, weight, bracer, lens, and anklet. These can be attained through the Battle Subway or Pokemon World Tournament with battle points. Each costs 16 BP, so prepare to do a lot of battling to earn these. Third, you'll need an EXP Share, which you can get at least 2 times during any playthrough, from the Battle Company in Castelia City or the Pokemon Fan Club Chairman. Lastly, you'll need some vitamins. These can be purchased from Shopping Mall 9 near Opelucid City. There are some other resources you can use to raise EVs, like the wings you can find on the Driftvale Drawbridge, or some of the services you can get in Join Avenue. But this tutorial won't utilize either of those, since this is more about grinding your EVs to the max in a short period of time rather than raising them passively. Step 2. Pick your Pokemon. Of course, besides these items, you'll need the Pokemon you want to EV train. This can be any Pokemon you want. However, it is important to make sure your Pokemon has no EVs prior to starting your training. Otherwise, some EVs might be assigned to the stats you don't want to train, and take away from stats you do want. A way to do this is by feeding your Pokemon some stat-reducing berries until they won't eat anymore. But getting these berries in Gen 5 is kind of a pain, because the only sure way you can track them down is by having a high-level florist near your Join Avenue in Black and White 2. Generally, for this reason, it's recommended to just start with a Pokemon that's never been in any battles before, like one you just caught or hatched from an egg, so you don't have to worry about this. For the purpose of this tutorial, the Pokemon I'm going to raise is the shiny Dratini I got for clearing White Tree Hollow. I've never used it in battle, so I know it has 0 EVs in every stat. Step 3. Choose your EV spread. Before we start training though, we need to decide how we're going to spread out the EVs. When you're just starting out, I recommend looking up the Pokemon you want to EV train on Smogon.com to see what EV spreads they recommend. Really, you can't go wrong by following these sets. and it's a good way to get a grasp on how to EV train a Pokemon. How do you choose which set you want for your Pokemon if there are a lot listed? Well, look at the moves it recommends that go with that spread to get an idea of how it's designed to play. Do you want your Pokemon to be offensive or defensive? What role do you want it to play on your team? What nature and ability does it have, and what would complement it best? In this case, my Dratini doesn't have a Dream World ability, and its nature is neutral, meaning it doesn't boost or decrease any stats at all. So I decided to make it an Eviolite Dragonair, instead of evolving it all the way into a Dragonite, and go with the first EV spread listed on Dragonair's page on Smogon, which gives it 252 HP, 4 defense, and 252 special defense. Most of the builds you'll see on Smogon really only involve training 3 stats. Since there's a 510 cap on the total number of EVs you can earn per Pokemon, and a cap of 252 usable EVs per stat, the most effective way you can use these EVs is usually to spread them around on 3 or 4 key stats that you want your Pokemon to excel in. Which stats are most effective really depends on the Pokemon, and luckily Smogon does most of the thinking for you in figuring out which build is best for which Pokemon. Step 4. Give your Pokemon Pokerus. Now that we've picked our EV spread, we can begin the actual training. First, take your Pokerus carrier and the Pokemon you want to train, and battle a few wild Pokemon to spread Pokerus. Make sure only the carrier is battling, and not the Pokemon you want to train. Once your Pokemon's contracted Pokerus, you can put the carrier away in the PC again and start the training process. Step 5. Stat 1. Vitamins. Let's start with the first stat we wanted to train, HP, which we wanted to give Dratini 252 EVs in. To knock this down to a more manageable number, give it 10 HP ups, which will take care of the first 100 EVs. Something to keep in mind is that each vitamin gives 10 EVs in their respective stat, but they only count towards the first 100 EVs in any stat. If your Pokemon already has 100 EVs or more in this stat from battling Pokemon or other methods, the vitamin won't have any effect. This means you absolutely must give your Pokemon vitamins before doing any of the other steps. Step 6. Grinding with EXP Share. For the remaining 152 though, we'll need to battle some wild Pokemon. Every single Pokemon gives a predetermined number of EVs for defeating them based on their species. For example, every Basculin gives 2 speed EVs once they're defeated, and every Litwick gives 1 special attack EV. We're training for HP, so we'll need to find a Pokemon that gives HP EVs once they're defeated. An easy way to do this is just to go to Cerebi.net's Black and White Pokedex, and click on the stat you want to earn EVs in. It'll list all the Pokemon that give EVs in that stat, as well as how many they give. The best Pokemon to grind on for HP in my version, White 2, are the Grimers that appear during spring and summer in the Castilia City sewers, and give 1 HP EV each. Alternatively, we could defeat the Palpitoad and Stunfisk on Route 8, which give 2 HP EVs each, but Stunfisk can use Endure, which will mess up our training, so we'll stick to the easiest for now. Since we don't want EVs in any other stat but HP right now, we'll run away from anything that isn't a Grimer. These Grimers are pretty low level, but my Dratini is even lower level, which means it's not a good idea to try and take them on with it alone. Instead, I'll take a high level Pokemon I don't want to EV train, in this case my Swampert, which has already been fully raised, and put it in the front of my party. I'll give an EXP Share to my Dratini, so the EVs will transfer over without actually having to battle with it. Since my Dratini has Pokerus, the EVs earned per battle will be doubled, so Dratini will earn 2 HP EVs per Grimer defeated. To see how many Grimers I'll need to defeat then, I'll simply divide 252 by 2. My answer is 76, so I'll need to beat 76 Grimers to finish EV training Dratini's HP stat. This sounds a little overwhelming if you plan on manually counting out how many Grimers you defeat, but there's an easier way to keep track of it. My Swampert knows 3 different moves which can knock out a Grimer in 1 hit. These moves total have 35 PP. Every time I run out of PP for all 3 moves, I know I've defeated 35 Grimers. 2 rounds of using up all my PP, healing in between, will mean I've defeated 70 Grimers, which means all I need to do is use up all Swampert's PP on the Grimers twice, and then knock out 6 more. This sounds awfully tedious, I know, but it's worth it to get that extra bulk. After knocking out 76 Grimers, my Dratini has maxed out HP EVs. Step 7. Stat 2. Vitamins. Once I'm done with my HP stat, it's time to move on to the next stat I plan to train, Special Defense. Again, we'll give it 10 Zinc to take off that initial 100 EVs. Step 8. Grinding with a power item. Dratini is a little higher level now than when we started, and can probably take out the low level Frillish and Burbank City I plan to use to train its special defense, so we'll try something different this time. Instead of having Swampert do the work and giving an EXP Share to Dratini, we'll move Dratini to the front of the party and give it a power band to hold. This will add 4 special defense EVs to any Pokemon we knock out in battle. Since Frillish gives 1 special defense EV already, this will raise it to 5 per battle, and since Pokerus doubles the amount of EVs earned, this will mean Dratini will earn 10 special defense EVs per Frillish it knocks out. To earn 150 EVs, Dratini only needs to knock out 15 Frillish. Even though Dratini is about the same level as these Frillish, it still doesn't know very many good moves. So rather than going by PPs, we'll probably have to count the Frillish knocked out manually. After knocking out 15 Frillish, we only have 2 EVs left to earn in special defense before we're done training in this stat. So we'll take the power band away from it so it only earns 2 EVs per battle again. Knock out 1 more and we're done. Step 9. Stat 3. Vitamins. This last stat, defense, we only need 4 EVs in. Since all of our other stats are done being trained, it's okay to overcompensate and just give it 1 iron to finish it up. All vitamins give 10 EVs in their respective stat, but since we've already assigned all the EVs we want to the other stats, it's okay to go a little bit over here. And with that, we have successfully completely EV trained a Pokemon. That wasn't so bad, was it? As your Pokemon levels up, you'll be able to see the fruits of your labor more clearly as it starts earning lots of points in the stats you train. As you EV train more Pokemon, you'll get the hang of it more and more, and you'll see how simple, though tedious, this process can be. Once you get the hang of it, you can even grab 4 more EXP shares and EV train up to 5 Pokemon at once. EV training is just a small piece of the puzzle when it comes to raising a Pokemon to its full potential though. Nature, ability, moveset, IVs, which combination of Pokemon you use on a team, and other factors are all equally as important. Hopefully now that you've tackled one of the first hurdles in raising a competitive team, you'll learn more about how each of these elements can be honed and how they all work. There are some great resources out there. Smogon, Maryland, and Cerebi.net all have great thorough guides on how EVs work, as well as the other numerous mechanics involved in raising a competitive team. While the how is definitely important, understanding the why is what will help you master these mechanics. So that about wraps up this tutorial, but I have one more exciting announcement. Maryland.com is having a massive Pokemon 3DS giveaway. The grand prize winner will receive a Pikachu 3DS XL and copies of Pokemon X and Y. There's a link in the video description with details about the prizes and how to enter. Good luck and have fun! Thank you for watching and stick around for more Pokemon videos. See ya!